Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hall of Femme, a podcast by Femme Forte. This is our brave space, as you all know, where we share learnings, we share experiences by and from feminists so that we can try and have conversations around the work we are doing, around the work our partners are doing, and the work that the rest of the movement is doing. So today we are having an interesting conversation on litigating reproductive justice. And I know it might sound like a mouthful or sound heavy or legal, technical, whatever you want to call it for some people. But I promise if you stick around, you'll see that we are having an everyday conversation that you've probably already been having with your friends, with your partners, with your workmates, and things like that. So please stick around and hang out with us in the Hall of Fame. And as usual, I have two amazing people with me in studio who are going to introduce themselves very briefly, and then I will come back to the reason why we are here. So I will start with my immediate neighbor.
Thank you so much, Samantha. My name is Kirswa Bint Yasmin. I work with the Islamic Women's Initiative for Justice, Law and Peace. I work as a legal officer. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's just, like that.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Rose Wachkona, and I work with Women's Pro Bono Initiative, which is an organization, a feminist organization that was established in 2018 to end or to advance bodily autonomy for all women in Uganda and to fight violence and discrimination against women. I'm a feminist, I'm a lawyer, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, ladies. Like I said, a very interesting conversation we're about to have. So I would like to start us off by saying this conversation really is around the work that Femme Forte and other partners, as you will hear, have been doing around litigating reproductive justice. And the two ladies in the studio are, I'm going to say, partners and friends, and so are their organizations anyway, which is why they were included in the introduction. So if this is the first time you're hearing about Femme Forte or IWILAP or Women's Pro Bono, please go to your Google and quickly look at the work that we are all doing and how you can support us and all those amazing things. So Femme Forte is an implementing partner on a project called Litigating Reproductive Justice in Africa, or in short, LIRA. And this is a project by Afya and Haki. And today, Yasmin is here representing IWILAP, who are also implementing partners on the project. And so both of the ladies here have an interesting perspective to add to the topic, and I guess we should just get right into it. So I will start with Yasmin. I think when it comes to reproductive health and SRHR and bodily autonomy, one of the things that we hear a lot is the word choice. And so I wanted to have a conversation, first of all, what is reproductive justice? Before we even get to litigating it, where does choice fit in that word, or how does it differ? Yeah, so let's start there.
Thank you so much. So reproductive justice refers to a circumstance where women and girls are able to make their own decisions about their reproductive health. And there are no laws that are discriminatory. There are no harmful policies against their choices. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to build on that, please. Free.
Thank you so much, Samantha. We have come a long way in terms of advancing reproductive health, sexual and reproductive health for women. This has been something at the crux of the women's movement and the feminist movement for a long time. Unfortunately, a lot of literature was based in the West, where they always emphasized choice. And they they were under the view that women always had choice
Yes.
and never considered the circumstances under which they are making those choices or the negotiations that they had to make in order to arrive at a particular decision, or even the communities, the environments, the influences that surrounded them, like religion, culture, whether you have money or not, all those things determine ultimately what choice you're going to make. When you look at feminism, it's not just about the ability to make a decision. It's about the ability to actualize that decision. So if I'm here and I get pregnant and I want to terminate that pregnancy or have an abortion, I may decide to, but I don't have the money to actualize it, which means my choice is going to be defeated. And that's how reproductive justice comes in. It's not just about saying, oh, women have a choice. I can decide to give birth or not give birth or raise my children. But it's about the ability to actualize the decisions that I actually make. That my agency is not performed in a vacuum, outside my social structures, outside my environment, outside my family, but that the society comes together to ensure that my decision is actualized. And also, there was a belief, especially coming from the global north, which is the Western countries, that all women were ultimately they could decide to give birth. That was inevitable. But then the decision not to give birth was where the limitation was. So there was a heavy emphasis on access to safe abortion, as if it was guaranteed. Motherhood was guaranteed for the white woman. But when you look at the black bodies that most of us inhabit, even here, like motherhood was never guaranteed. There was forced sterilization, people with disabilities. There are very many people or categories of marginalized women who are not allowed to give birth. Lesbian women, black women in certain cultures and things like that. So reproductive justice comes to look at the realities, and not just that, oh, we are being refused to have abortions, but also we are being refused to give birth and found families. So it has three tenets: the right to give birth, the right to not give birth if you don't want to, and the right also to raise your families in a way that is good for you. So again, looking at the context of, do you have the resources? Do you have money? Do you have maternity leave? Things like that ensure that you can ably raise your children. So choice is limited to abortion, but reproductive justice expands the scope of reproductive rights.
Okay. Oh, I think that was quite extensive. I already feel like by the time I leave here, I will have learned a bunch of things that I didn't come in knowing, or just added on to what I already know. So I like the point that you were making about context, which is a thing that I think we often forget. Sometimes it's not intentional, and sometimes it's often deliberate. So I don't want to make an assumption that it's optional. But I think when it comes to issues of context, as you've highlighted, it would be, it's an important point to make for people to start carrying the conversations away from generalizations of reproductive justice and how it's been mostly, what's the word, theorized in Western contexts, like you've said, and try to apply it to lived experiences and things like that work within our African context. So thank you both for that. I think the next place for us to go is to try and understand what then litigating reproductive justice means. I know that we've explained in broad what reproductive justice is, but then what do you mean when you say you're litigating it? Is it an approach? What other approaches are there? How do you say, okay, litigation is the only way forward, and something like that?
Litigating reproductive justice mainly means a circumstance where, circumstances where, for instance, where reproductive rights have been infringed, where there are some harmful policies, where there are some discriminatory laws in the laws that we have. So we come up, we pick on those discriminatory laws, or there has been like a harmful practice, then we take it to court to litigate so that that discriminatory practice is done away with, or whether that law is discriminatory, so that it can be amended. So when you're litigating reproductive health, you're trying to expand and create grounds where reproductive rights can be accessed in the society by women and girls.
Okay. To sort of try and expound it, my question is for Rose. Maybe we try and talk about in particular what discriminatory laws, what kind in the Ugandan context, since we said we are contextualizing. What do we mean when we say harmful social practices? What are some of those, so that people follow along with us? Let me just say like that.
I can try. You have to start with the base and the foundation. In society, there are acceptable ways of living, or there are standards, or what you would call norms. So when you're looking at sexual and reproductive health, there are standards to have sex, there are standards to reproduce.
Yeah.
So society comes together collectively to tell you, as a human being, maybe Samantha, this is how you have to have sex. You have to have it with a man. You have to have it when you're an adult. You have to have it in marriage. So if you fall outside those standards, often society will come together to collectively punish you. And sometimes this punishment is wielded under law. The same for reproduction. You must produce after naturally having sex. You must produce when you're in marriage. You must produce if you are a woman. So if you're a trans man, no, not really. So then they will legislate to make sure that these standards are followed by everyone. That's why when you look at the Constitution, Article 31 on marriage, everyone has a right to found a family, but it's just a man and a woman. A gay couple cannot get married in this country. This is reinforced by the Anti-Homosexuality Act. But all that is just to make sure that they are enforcing that one standard that society has come together to say that this is how we are going to have sex, this is how we are going to reproduce. So anyone who falls outside those standards is often punished. And now what we are seeing is that they are punished through law. So if you're doing sex work where you have transactional sex, get money, and offer sex as a commodity, you're going to be criminalized. That is in the penal code. And they will impose a punishment for you for doing that. Another thing is around if, okay, I am married, I've gotten pregnant, or I am having sex outside marriage, still they will criminalize you. When you look at child-to-child sex under the Penal Code Act, whether it's consensual or not is inconsequential. The problem is you are below the age of 18. How dare you have sex? You need to be punished. So the law is wielded as a tool of punishment and as a tool to control the bodies of women so that you can behave in a certain way. You can't have sex if I'm a woman with another woman. That is impossible. The Anti-Homosexuality Act is going to come against you. You cannot have an abortion because birth or motherhood is mandated under our laws. If you're a woman, your eventual life, the result of your life is childbirth. So if you're not giving birth or you are having an abortion, society must punish you. And they use the law to do that. So they criminalize abortion, again, under the Penal Code Act. But we also go ahead to see now the criminalization of diseases. Like, for example, the Venereal Diseases Act, where if I have an STD and I sleep with another person, they get the STD, that is a crime. Again, also in the Prevention of HIV and Control Act. If I have HIV and I sleep with a person and they end up with, even if they don't end up with HIV, it's going to aggravate the sentence that I'm going to get. And you'll find that HIV now has been used as an aggravating factor in sexual offenses across the board. So you're almost like you're criminalized, or you're you're criminalized for having sex. If you have a disease, you're criminalized for having sex. If it's outside marriage, if it's with a person of the same gender, if the result of that sex is pregnancy and you terminate, you're criminalized. So all these laws are being used as a weapon of control. So when you're litigating to advance reproductive justice, it's to take away that control. Because at the heart of feminist litigation is the ability to uphold women's bodily autonomy. For us, we have three cadres under feminist scholarship. We have economic autonomy, where women should control their money, their resources. We have voice and agency, where we should participate in decision-making spaces, be able to speak out. And the third is bodily autonomy, the ability to control your body and whatever happens with it. But now when laws begin to try and take away that control from an individual and give it to the state, we try and say, no, we cannot do that. That goes against the human rights standards that advance women's rights globally, but also nationally.
Okay. Thank you. I think you've touched a lot and even gone on to what my next question was, because I was going to ask what the difference is between feminist litigation and traditional lawyering, especially in regards to litigating for reproductive justice, because feminism adds the extra layer, which I think that you've explained quite well. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Not really. Maybe I would just talk about, let's say, for instance, the penal code, like citing just one law. The penal code of Uganda, this kind of criminalizes abortion under sections 130, 131, and only provides a slight exception under 207. And also the Constitution of Uganda states that everyone has a right to life. So if someone is pregnant, they expect you to have that child, not to terminate it. If there are circumstances where someone can get pregnant, let's say through incest, through rape, or maybe the fetus has some abnormalities and they would like to get rid of that child. But here comes the penal code, which criminalizes that act. So reproductive justice litigation comes in to challenge those sections of the penal code, so that those the section 207 of the penal code creates exceptions where abortion can be allowed under certain circumstances, like I've mentioned, rape, incest, abnormalities on the fetus, mental illness of the mother. Such a person cannot carry a child and take care well of that child. But if the law is compelling them to have that child, it's kind of inhuman and against the human rights principles.
Okay. So I'll ask again, just to bring it back to the LIRA project, is there procedure that is followed? How do you decide which cases you litigate? And what does that process maybe look like in practice?
Okay, under the LIRA program, we do provide legal aid services to women and girls, so in society. So while providing legal aid, we identify cases. Let's say there have been some harmful practices, maybe let's say someone has violated someone's rights. Yes, for instance, someone has aborted, which is against, of course, the laws. But receiving PAC is legal.
What's PAC?
PAC is receiving post-abortion care is legal under the Ugandan laws. So someone is obligated to receive post-abortion care. So when this person goes to the hospital to receive post-abortion care, and then the police comes and arrests them while receiving post-abortion care, we take that case to court so that we litigate it and make sure that no one is ever arrested while receiving PAC, which is legal. You understand?
Yeah.
Then also we find inconsistencies in the laws. Like I've mentioned, the penal code criminalizes abortion, and the Constitution provides for the right to life. So when you notice those inconsistencies, you then you petition court challenging the the unconstitutionality of the sections of the penal code.
Okay.
Yes. Then also you can litigate after carrying out research. Like you pick up a topic, let's say maternal health, access to maternal health services in the hospitals, and you carry out research. Then you use that research as evidence to petition court.
Okay.
Yes, the main aim of litigation, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Yes, the main aim of litigation is mainly to expand the grounds of access to reproductive health services. So, like, once you litigate, you're expanding grounds of access to reproductive health.
Okay.
Yes.
Rose, how does the process differ when it comes to women's pro bono? Is it different? Is it the same? Are there any things that she's missed? Same question, really. We just want to understand how you choose the cases that you litigate, or if someone has a case to litigate, how do they begin the process of approaching WPI?
Well, approaching WPI, you can anywhere. Our toll-free line is on our website and also our numbers, so you can reach us. Also, our offices are in Ntinda. You can use Google Maps and find us, because you can't really expect people to know whether or not they have a legal issue.
Yeah,
All they know is that they feel there is an injustice that has been committed.
that's true.
So for us, first and foremost, is there an injustice in whatever form or way? And that means you need to listen to the facts that a person puts before you. And you don't really pick and choose. It's about whether or not there is harm that has been done, whether there is a violation that has been committed, and whether this matter can then be taken to court. So you would either advise if there is no legal question that can be solved, or if there is a legal question that can be solved, then you would take on the matter. Maybe the difference would be which matters then become public interest litigation matters, because you can litigate individual rights. That one is a given. The Human Rights Enforcement Act gives us the powers to litigate individual rights and individual wrongs and violations that have happened to people. But then there are matters that transcend just one human being. I can give an example. We got a case in our office. This lady had been used as a surrogate for one of the hospitals, those fertility hospitals in Kampala. I'll not be able to mention lest they sue us for defamation.
Yeah.
So she had been used, and this is an ongoing practice. This is a lady, she was used as a surrogate. She had to be paid 7 million shillings at the end of when she hands over the baby. But then during the process of the pregnancy, from when the fetus was implanted, she was kept in a home. Her movement was controlled. She couldn't move anywhere. She had to eat what they fed her. No questions were asked about medication. They would just come, put the hand. She puts the hand. They put whatever medicine they are putting. Like all control over her decision making concerning medication, explanations, information was taken away from her. And it's now the commissioning parents who were using her as a surrogate to carry their baby, who are deciding what type of folic she should swallow, what sort of, okay, now she's sick, should we give her this tablet or the other tablet? Those were not questions that were put to her. What food should she eat? Where should she go? Everyone was so worried that if we allow her to go out of the gate, she's going to disappear with the baby. So they kept her imprisoned for all that time. But the unfortunate bit was that when she gave birth to the baby, they took the baby away. I think something happened because they mandated the C-section. The doctor said it was safer. She didn't even have an option of a vaginal birth. No. So something happened. She started bleeding a lot and they took out her uterus. Again, without her consent. And the funny thing is, when she's telling us this story, she wasn't alone in that home. There were many girls who are in there. Okay, I don't want to call them girls. They are women. There were many women who are in that home who are being used as surrogates, who are going through the very same issue. So this becomes a systemic failure
Yeah.
It's not just one hospital that is doing it.
Mm.
This is almost a cartel of hospitals that is using Ugandan women bodies to produce either for foreigners or for Ugandan elite women, and they are being paid peanuts. They are treated like slaves and dogs. So when you look at such an issue, you realize that this transcends one individual violation, but it now goes to cover an entire syndicate or a cartel of issues. So we need to address it as a public interest issue. So individual rights, you do it almost as legal aid. It's a one-on-one. But then systemic, you go ahead to ask for changes within the system. So when we are filing the case, we are asking for laws to be put in place with better protections for women who are going to be surrogates, for better covering and for better management of them, and for bigger punishments, maybe for hospitals and infrastructures that are carrying on this type of work. So maybe that's where the difference would come in, but ideally that would be it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's quite really extensive and really insightful. I'm going to honestly say that I didn't think that surrogacy, or to the extent that you've mentioned it, was a thing here in Uganda. So I just kept saying, wow, the entire time you were presenting.
Apparently we are poor, so, and surrogacy thrives in societies where there is a lot of poverty. So you'll go to India, global south, because it's so expensive in the global north. They have to come to global south countries where you can, because when you look at 7 million in Uganda, it's a lot of money. But to someone from Europe or from the US, that's just 2,000 US dollars. And that's it. Someone will carry your baby for you for 9 months. They hand you your child
2,000
and 2,000. But if you're to do it in the global north, you may spend upwards of 100,000 US dollars. So it's just a fraction of the cost, and that's why the industry is thriving.
That's true. So the question that I wanted to put to both of you next is, after litigating and say you've won the case, what next? Like, is that what success looks like? I know you've touched on it a little bit by saying you ask for changes in policy and things like that, but from I think we have a couple of examples that show us how long the process of trying to impact policy change is in this country. I won't speak about other contexts. So what does, beyond the legal win, what does success look like? How do you come back to it and say, okay, so this case, we got a ruling that this person was awarded damages, one within the project lens, and then for Rose, feminist lens. I'll just
die. So the people who are most impacted by that decision, if we are saying that our constituency is women, they must be in agreement and they must follow you into the courtroom and equally demand for a change, maybe in that law, in that policy, or in that practice, so that all of them can benefit from it. But where like almost 90% are rejecting that particular thing that you're trying to push, then it's not going to allow. And then the last one was around economics. You should have money to be able to do that litigation.
This is true.
So when you're organizing a program around feminist litigation, all those 4 factors must be put in place. If one is missing, then
it won't
the
work.
entire thing is going to collapse on its head. You must ensure the movement is behind you, the movement is mobilized, the movement is aware of what is happening and the objectives of the case. You must ensure politicians, people in the line ministries are also in the loop. You must ensure that the people who are doing the litigation are facilitated and funded to do it, and the courts and the lawyers are ready to bring the case, but also to objectively apply human rights principles. So I think you people play that role of maybe doing the movement building and mobilizing the masses to be able to push for that particular. Otherwise, without all those 4 pillars, the thing collapses on its head.
Okay. So this was a very interesting conversation, and I think we can really go on and on and on. But I don't know. Final words. This is what we are talking about. I think from your submission, the thing that I really picked, and also, like you said, that applies to us, is when it comes to movement building. I think a common misconception or a thing that people like to dwell on is that we must all organize the same way. We must all be on the streets. We must all write academic papers. We must all these things. And in the end, if everybody is thinking that, then, like you said, the whole thing will collapse on its head. So thank you, really, because I think whoever is watching us will be able to slot themselves into the 4 pillars that you've said and figure out how they can support the work that either Women's Pro Bono is doing, or ELAP, or Femme Forte, and all the other partners and people that are doing this work around advancing reproductive rights. But also, I hope that my hope going into this conversation was that people would be able to understand and maybe pull away from just saying, I have choice, I have rights, to understand that those rights don't exist in a vacuum. And if they don't, then what does that mean for the work I am doing? If I am an organization that is doing this work, to contextualize and say, in West Nile where we are working, this is what is happening, versus maybe in Barara, I try to pick 2 extremes. What do the contexts look like? And then also taking it away from organizations, individuals, what does that look like for you, and what does that mean for the choices that you want to make? So I really hope that we tried to explain that. I really hope that you picked something, and if you didn't, please find us on our socials and ask additional questions, and then we'll be able to put them to Rose and Yasmin and get back to you. So, parting shots, please.
Okay, my parting shots would be about litigating reproductive justice. We look forward to seeing situations or circumstances where women and girls are able to access their reproductive rights and services without discrimination, without stigma, without being prevented by the laws that are in place. Yes, we look forward to a future where grounds to say safe abortion are being expanded in the laws of Uganda.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
I think for me, my parting shots would be that reproductive rights don't exist in a vacuum. They can only exist and can only be enforced in a society where human rights are respected, human rights are enforced, and where the rule of law actually prevails. So we cannot just pick and choose which rights. All rights are interconnected to each other. The right to food becomes an underlying determinant to the right to health. So we have to know that in a country where there is no rule of law, where there is no democracy, where there is no respect for women's rights, we cannot have reproductive justice in any way. So for us, it's maybe to pass a rallying call to all women's rights activists and women's rights organizations that have chosen one particular facet of human rights to zero in, to expand their scope and look at what's happening in our country and know that we don't just fight for one human right, we fight for all human rights holistically, and they form part of the reproductive rights that we so want to achieve.
Thank you so much. And to everybody that is watching us or listening to us, thank you for hanging out with us in the Hall of Fame. Until next time, bye. Oh, wow.